So you want to get a job, I mean, that's the goal, right? That's why we all go to college, or we try to get some experience. We want to be employed at the end of the day. So how do you give yourself your best chance of landing that job that you want? But if you're still in college, you can get an internship, and that can funnel you into your next career, which to me is the best way for you to set up your career after college. But even if you didn't have an internship and maybe you're just ready to graduate college and start working, it's still possible for you to get a job. But regardless of whether you have an internship or not, you're going to have to go through the interview process. So what is this video about? Well, in this video I'm going to be talking about the value that I believe on internships and why I think they're so important, some tips on how to actually land your internship, and I'll give you some common interview questions and ones that I actually remember being asked when I got my job here as a construction engineer in Hawaii. But I think my answers to these questions and how I dealt with them can help anyone in any industry. So be sure to stay all the way till the end for that. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to join our growing family here on YouTube, where we talk about personal finance, engineering, and just life here in Hawaii. And with that, let's talk about internships. So why do I think internships are the best thing in the world? Because the experience that you gain from an internship is invaluable. I would argue that it's almost as valuable as your education itself. And why is that? Because to me, one of the most tragic things that I see from people graduating from college is that they go into a job that they think that they'll like, and they're miserable. And this is something that they probably could have easily been able to tell from a few-month internship, getting that real-world experience, and really understanding the job that they're getting as a result of their degree. Even if your internship is unpaid, that experience that you get and that peace of mind knowing that this is the industry that you really want to be in is worth so much. So I say that you can start at any point in your college life, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, whatever, 9th year, senior, it doesn't matter. Use those summers, use your breaks instead of goofing off and doing whatever. Really get some experience and really start thinking about what you want to do after your education is done. And the earlier that you do, maybe the earlier you can maybe even switch your majors if it's not even the direction you want to go. Clarity in your career will come from internships. And that's why they're the best. Okay, cool. I'm gonna apply to internships. How do I best set myself up for the interview process? So my first tip is to start early, and probably around now is pretty good for a summer internship. A lot of times companies are looking during this time to fill their summer intern spots, and they'll use that spring break area to interview people. And the earlier that you start and lock in your spot at the internship, the better. So just look at jobs online and apply. And if you know of certain companies or you know people that work around in the industry, ask around, see if there's any openings, and also ask them about their experience working on the job. You can get some good information by just asking the people around you, and they can maybe even introduce you to other companies that you didn't know existed in the industry. So all you need to do is just send in that resume and wait around and just let everything come to you, right? You can. I would suggest that you maybe actually physically visit some of these places that you're applying to. That's what I did. I believe that helped get my name to the front of the line, because the process of me getting the interview started and all that happened pretty soon after I went and visited the place. But you have to do this in a non-creepily way. Don't just go in without a plan and just be like, hey, why haven't you hired me yet? I applied, what's going on? Not like that. I would go in, be relatively professional, and say, I just want to come by, introduce myself. I wanted to let you know that I applied to one of your internship positions, and I'm really looking forward, and I hope that I can work here this summer. And a lot of times there will be like a person at the front desk if you're working for a corporate company, or maybe they'll say, oh, this so-and-so can help you out, and then maybe that gets you into a conversation with someone of relative power. And there may be companies out there that just kind of brush you off and just say, okay, cool, well thanks, have a nice day. And maybe you'll feel like you wasted your time, but I would say for the most part, I haven't really experienced that. That's just what I think worked for me. So now here's the part where I think that some people tend to overthink. The interview process. What kinds of questions are they going to ask? How do I prepare? Have I hit the like button and subscribed to the channel yet? So for my fellow watchers out there that are really interested in construction engineering, and I would say for the majority of people out there applying for a job, the questions that you're going to be asked are more behavioral and not necessarily technical. Even though I was a civil engineer by degree, applying for an engineering position, they didn't ask me too many questions about nitty-gritty details. And honestly, even if they did ask a technical question, if I didn't know, and this is my big advice to everybody out there, if you don't know something, don't make it up. Especially when you're an entry-level person, you don't have enough experience, you don't have that savvy nature for you to BS an answer. You'll see right through you. And to me, you just seem fake at that point already, and it's a bad first impression. I have so much more respect for people that can admit that they don't know something, but that they're willing to learn. And honestly, if they ask you a technical question like that in your interview process, that may just be a test. So okay, Keenan, Behavioral questions. What kinds of questions are they going to ask me? So here's 5 questions I think that most companies will ask. And on the surface level, they seem very simple, but they actually can become very tough. So I think the famous one is that they'll say, well, tell me about yourself. So this is not a trick question. I think they just want to see how you think and actually what you find interesting about yourself. Because if you give a boring ass answer and you don't act excited about what you're doing in your own life, why would they hire you? And keep in mind, all of your answers have to somewhat tie to the job that you're applying to. So I'll give you an example. For me, working in the construction industry, I basically give my story about where I graduated high school, because in Hawaii it kind of matters a little bit. And then how I went to college, graduated in 3 years, and I had this experience with my dad where we were building stuff together in the yard. And it really piqued my interest into how to actually do some construction things. And that kind of led to more conversation within the interview. And that's one tip in the interview. If you can make it more of a conversation with the interviewer, more points in your favor. So yes, this question about tell me about yourself is usually best answered with some sort of story that you can somehow tie back to the position that you're applying to. And then also you can read the interviewer as well. If you're starting to talk and you're starting to ramble and tell them your whole life story about how you were born, 7 ounces large. I don't know how heavy are babies. And you're giving them all these extra unnecessary details. They're gonna tune out and you're gonna be able to tell. So think about this question. You're probably gonna be asked this and prepare your answer ahead of time. So then another question they'll ask you is, why should we hire you? And that's very similar to tell me about yourself, but this to me is a greater opportunity to show that you understand the position you're applying for. And what you want to do is you want to align your strengths as an individual to what is required on the job. So I'll give you an example. In the construction industry, I knew going in that there's a lot of hours that go into work. I know that there's a lot of details that you need to know, and I basically pitched myself that way. I'm really passionate about learning how to build stuff, and I also realize that it takes a lot of hours to get the work done, and I'm very okay with that, and I really want to use as much time that I have now to learn and grow in this industry. And if you're actually going to apply for a construction engineering position, you can even say, hey, I watched this guy on YouTube, and I was researching this career, and what he was saying in his videos about what he does on the job really excited me, and I know that I have the passion for this career. Something along those lines. And I know that I'm going through these questions kind of quickly, so if you have any further questions or you want me to elaborate on something, let me know in the comments below. But moving on to question number 3, they'll ask to hear about a time when you overcame some sort of obstacle or hardship. So when they ask this question, they want to see that you can persevere. They want to know that you're not a quitter and you can solve problems and critically think. And I know that there are some people out there that have actually overcome some real hardships. But if some of those are a little too personal and you're not comfortable talking about those kinds of things, what I did is I usually just reference something that happened in college. Usually group projects, because you know how all of those usually go. So here, you can probably even steal this story because it sounds pretty good. So if you're working on a group project, you can say that there's that one member of the group project that's kind of failing. And you can talk about how the team members were all talking amongst themselves and saying, screw this guy, we should whatever. And you can talk about maybe you talked to that other person on the project and got them to do a little bit more work. Or you tried to diffuse the situation, keep everyone a little bit more cordial because you realize that the group effort was more important than the individual glory. Because that's something that companies want to see, especially big corporate companies. That you're not just in it for yourself, it's all about the team, it's all about the project. And that's why, again, you have to relate that hardship to something that you know you're going to have to overcome in the position that you're applying for. So the 4th question, what can you improve on? So this is a great example of just being very truthful, but not pulling your pants down and showing your inner demons. And this is also not the place to get cocky and say, I have nothing to improve on, I'm perfect. That's almost worse than pulling your pants down and showing your inner demons. So like for me, if I was going to apply to another job, I would say something along the lines that I tend to have very high expectations for myself, and sometimes I project that expectation onto others, and I'm trying to work on realizing that everybody is not motivated in the same ways that I am, and I'm working hard to try to understand other people's perspectives and help motivate them and work together in ways that work for them and not just for me. Because at the end of the day, I can't build this project on my own, so all of us around need to be working together to get the optimal amount of performance out of each and every individual. Something like that. And the last one, which I think is actually very important, and it's also usually the last thing that happens in the interview, is they'll ask, do you have any questions for us? Always ask a question. Don't just leave. Show that you have some curiosity in the company that you're applying to. Show that you did some research. show that you just give a care in the world. And to me, the questions that you ask should be a good balance of thought-provoking questions and kind of specific to your own development. So like a few questions I would ask is, what tasks do typically interns do? And do they get a good feel of the job when they end their internship and know what it's going to be like to be an engineer or whatever position that you're applying for? That question shows that you're in it for the long run and you want to get some good experience and you want to get something out of this internship. And one question that maybe could be thought-provoking, what would you consider a successful project? Or what would you consider success in your company? So for me, I would ask that at a company I was applying for because I would want to see where their real values are at. Are they only concerned with making a profit? Are they concerned with just the client's needs? Are they concerned more about how the company is internally and making sure their employees are happy? This question shows you where their priority is at and what their definition of success is, which I think is really important. So those two questions are examples of ones that show you that you're interested in the company specifically and something that can actually help you get more knowledge about the company and help your own development. And sometimes maybe the companies may actually fail your questions and make you think twice about actually signing up there. Well, there you have it, my quick blueprint of getting yourself a job after graduation. I hope that was helpful for you. I know I went through that kind of quickly. So again, if you have any further questions, I would love to answer you in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can join our growing family here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and I'll see you on the next video.